talk about is sauerkraut. And for those that have never made sauerkraut, it is the easiest thing in the world. When we're making sauerkraut, what we're doing is taking the natural bacteria that's present on the plant, and we're trying to increase the lactic acid. Lactic acid is the part of the plant that God put there to help the plant not rot. And so we're trying to create an environment that actually creates more lactic acid and more of the good bacteria to kill off any bad bacteria that might make it spoil. So, when you're making fermented foods, I highly recommend using organic vegetables. Because if you don't, when those people are putting the chemical fertilizers and the pesticides on those plants in the field, guess what they're killing besides the pests? They're killing the bacteria that we need on our plants. So again, Industrial Revolution, man, we thought it was a great thing to use Agent Orange out in our fields and kill everything. We thought it was wonderful, and at the time it seemed like a great idea. But we didn't know that besides the fact that it gives us cancer, we didn't know that it's also taking away the parts of the plant that we need to benefit from. So again, sauerkraut is just like bread. The vitamin content's going to go up when you ferment it. It's better for you than a probiotic. So vitamin B goes up, vitamin B12 goes up, vitamin C goes up. So we start with preferably an organic head of cabbage, and then we're going to slice it up. Now again, 6 kids, busy mom, I use a tool for everything if I can. I throw mine in the food processor with, this is the only blade that came with mine besides the chip making one. So I just put it in here, and I did cut mine up before I got here, just so we didn't have to take any time doing that. So we start with our shredded cabbage. This is what mine looks like. All right. We're going to take a tablespoon of salt.
For how much cabbage?
For 1 head of cabbage, and that's on the recipe.
Big head or little head?
Mine were just a medium. Yeah, these were pretty small because this is the last of our winter garden. It's the little guys that we're holding on. So this was a small head of cabbage. And we're going to stir it up. That's it. That's it.
Now wait.
That's the recipe. It is so, okay.
That's not it.
That is basically it, guys. So this is one that I did a little bit earlier because I wanted the process to start. So when you salt it, I'm sorry? It does, it's like basically full salt. What you want it to do, the salt is going to do 2 things. One, it's going to create a hospitable environment for the bacteria that's already on your plant to grow. And it's also going to draw the water out. You can start to see there's a bunch of moisture forming. Anybody that's ever, you know, you salt your vegetables to wig away the moisture. Okay, well for our sauerkraut, it's creating the brine that we want. So after this has been sitting on my counter for 30 minutes to an hour or so, I put a tea towel over it to keep the flies out, or fingers, or kids, or Nerf gun bullets. It's going to look like this. Now, if you have a sauerkraut crock at home, bless you, use it. I don't. I want as few things in my kitchen as possible. So, I use mason jars. I'm going to take my 1 head of cabbage. You know the great thing about making sauerkraut? You don't have to have sterilize this and sterilize that, because guess what you really want is some of the stuff that's in the air around you, okay? So don't worry about getting all crazy with your sterilize everything, because this is not canning, and we don't have to worry about botulism. So get a little way in there. This is a sauerkraut masher. You cannot find these at Walmart. So I worked with the wood guy here in town. He sells wood products at the farmer's market in LaGrange, and we have his card over there. I had him make me a bunch of these for this class, so we have them for sale over there for $10 if you need a masher, if you want to use a broom handle or something else. But this really does make, this is the only piece of equipment you need to make sauerkraut besides your jars. And this you can't find anywhere because they don't make them anymore. So what I'm doing is mashing all the sauerkraut down under the brine as much as possible. And this is the key to making a sauerkraut that's not going to grow any bad bacteria. As long as your sauerkraut is under that brine, you're fine. You want to get it under the brine as much as possible because that's going to be the anaerobic environment that the good bacteria is going to grow. So I'm going to put some more in there.
So is there like a pool on top or a?
Yeah, there you can see the liquid, and the longer it sits here, the more it's going to make as that salt helps draw out some more of the moisture. Okay, put some more in there.
And the pusher should be wood, is what you're saying?
I don't even know if they make, I mean, I'm sure they make plastic everything somewhere, but if
Wood's
I mean,
Wood's
you know,
better.
I'm all about supporting a local woodman, and we're so lucky that he's here, and I brought him mine, and he made the same ones, and I'm happy that he was able to get those for you guys, for anybody that needs them.
I don't even know what that thing is that you're using as like a.
Oh, the jar funnel?
Yeah.
This is, if you ever can, this just helps you not make a mess putting it in your jar. It's a jar funnel. You can get these at Walmart, D&D Ace, antique store.
Come plastic.
They do come in plastic, yeah. So I do, yeah, anything that works. So there's a liquid that's pooling. It's hard for you guys to see because you're seeing the part that when I'm smushing it, but there is a liquid that's forming on top.
Show a close up over there if
We
you can.
want to push out all
When
of
you
the
get the
air
liquid in
bubbles
there.
as best we can.
So if you have a crock, would you put it 1 inch to the lid, just the same like as if you did it in the jar? Or?
Yes, yeah, that's fine.
'Cause I bought a small.
Yeah, if you have a crock, that's a great way to do it too. And a lot of the times they're weighted, the lids are weighted, so.
We used to put a big rock on top of a piece
Yes,
of wood that was inside.
yeah. So there's two things that you can do now. So you're gonna wanna leave a gap, like she said, about 1 inch, okay? I'm gonna put the lid on it, and it's gonna sit on my counter for about 7 days.
Mine came in a liter.
Once or twice a day, you're gonna wanna come and burp it, because it's gonna produce a gas, just like our sourdough did. So you're gonna unscrew the lid, and you're gonna hear a little whoosh of sound come out, and that's it burping. Another thing I've seen is where people will take a Ziploc bag and put it inside and fill it with water, so that creates a weight. You can get weights, especially for these. If you wanted to buy one, you can. What I do, I just leave it on my counter, and then when I burp it, I just take my masher and I push it down one more time, just to make sure that as the gas is forming, sometimes it pushes some of the sauerkraut up. So you just wanna push it back down, make sure it's all under that brine. After sitting on my counter for about 7 to 10 days, it's good to go in the fridge. It can live in your fridge for 12 months to 18 months.
And you
Just
can
fine.
eat it after.
You can eat it after
Right
the
away,
7
7
days. You
days.
can eat it right away. Yes, you can. So we don't heat it to can it, because what does heating do?
Kills
Kills the
it.
bacteria. That's right. It could live on my counter for 6 months or so. A lot of people that have crocks will leave it for a year or so, and when they go to eat it, they'll just scrape off the mold that forms on top and eat what's below it. I'm just gonna keep mine in my fridge and eat the whole can. You can do whatever you're comfortable with. If you did get something in there, you'll know it. I did have, like in all the years I've been making sauerkraut, I did have one can once that when I went to get it, and you'll see it start to change color. It'll become a very a much lighter color than this. Almost back to this color like when I first chopped it up. But one year I noticed I went to get a can out and there was like some red in there, and I was thinking, nah, it doesn't look right. So I tossed that one. But in all the years I was doing this, I've only had one that ever looked off, and why take the chance? And so I did feed it to the chickens. They got to
You only added that one scoop of salt.
1 scoop to the
And
whole
you
cabbage.
don't put any more salt in
Nope.
after?
Nope.
Okay.
If people try to sell you a culture, you don't need it. In fact, you don't want it. You want what was growing on your cabbage in your local environment to be what inoculates your sauerkraut. It's kind of like honey. Have you guys ever heard that it's best to get honey in your local area?
Yeah.
This is what your body needs if you live right here. Go to your farmer's market, get something that's locally grown. Better yet, grow it yourself. This is what you want. Okay? So out of that 1 can, yes ma'am.
You're good.
That's all right.
So when you eat sauerkraut,
Mhm.
do you just usually eat it by itself and you don't warm it up or heat it
So-
or anything?
They say ideally, like if you ate a tablespoon with each meal, like
Oh,
that's
okay.
optimal.
Okay, so
you
it
could
doesn't
just
have
eat
to
it.
be a course in your meal?
No, 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 no.
Just, okay.
Yeah, you can put it on a salad. We mix ours with ground beef and noodles, and it's fantastic. Like, I'll use a whole can in just that one meal.
Okay.
Casserole.
Oh, I was gonna say something. Let me think.
When you mix it with the noodles and beef, do you warm it?
You
or
don't. You
just
really
add
don't want to
add
warm it.
At the last?
Yeah, add it the last. Just put it on top because it's got such a
You
mild
put it on
flavor.
mashed potatoes.
Put it on mashed potatoes. Put it on anything. You know what's really interesting? So around here we have all these wonderful Germans. What do they eat their sauerkraut with?
Potatoes.
What else? What kind of meat?
Sausage.
Sausage. So sausage is a very heavy, dense meat. When you eat sauerkraut with your sausage, you're getting a bunch of enzyme inhibitors that are helping to break that heavy sausage down in your gut while you're eating it. And our ancestors knew that. And we've lost that. We were like, oh yeah, let's be German and eat some sauerkraut with our sausage. There's a reason that it goes with the potatoes and the sausage, and it's because
Like, and Guido always said that they had this little nursery rhyme, and the kids used to say, "Where were you when the lights went out?" Down in the cellar eating sauerkraut.
yeah, because it was good for you. Okay, so this second, this part that is left here is not enough to make a full jar. So you can go ahead and do like what we're talking about, but I would probably eat that jar first. Like it's gonna be like a half a jar or 3/4 of a jar or whatever. So I would, when I'm going through and eating sauerkraut, I'll start with that jar and leave these full guys to eat in a year from now, or as I'm going through my stock of it in my fridge. Okay, any other questions about sauerkraut? Yes, ma'am.
So as it sits there, it's gonna create more brine, and you want
Mhm.
it to have that liquid on top of
Yes,
it
ma'am.
as it's stored in the fridge.
As it's, yep,
Okay,
yep. So just keep mashing it down as you're burping it.
okay. The last time I made it, it's, my jars were more soury, like really strong, to where there's a few that I just didn't eat.
Oh yeah.
Now, it's safe just to scrape what's off the top.
Just scrape it off, and yeah,
should be
usually if you have anything that infiltrates your jar, it's gonna come in from the top. So, you're good just to scrape it down, taste a little bit of it. Again, you're not gonna get sick from tasting a little bit of it. It's not botulism, it's
Right.
it's a different kind of bacteria, so it's not gonna hurt you the same way. And taste it, and if you don't like it, then you know you can chunk your jar, okay? Okay, yes,
You
ma'am.
said you leave it on the counter for 3 to 7 days.
Yeah.
Does it get stronger the longer you leave it?
It can develop more of a sour flavor. So if the sour flavor that you had experienced previously, if that's not something you like, you might try a shorter ferment, maybe 3 days.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Maybe I was just so uncertain about
Because,
it.
yeah, and a lot of times, and again, if you ever have questions, please feel free to contact me. If you try this, you have questions about it, just contact us. The people all have different flavors, and that's the great thing about making it home. If you don't want tiny little pieces for your sauerkraut, cut it by hand. Okay, just do what you want. If you want to really get experimental, you can add the lemon and dill and all the different things. And there's all kinds of lacto fermentation recipes in this book. You can lacto ferment any vegetable, carrots, beets, just any kind of vegetable can be lacto fermented, which will be good for your gut.
How about washing sauerkraut when you get it out of the can?
No,
When you get it out of a can?
no. Oh,
You
when
don't
you're
buy
buying it in
it.
the store.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, if you're buying it in the
I've never
store,
done.
let me tell you that real quick.
Everybody buys them in the can.
No,
If you're
jar.
buying it, if you're
Jar.
buying it in the can, you're only buying it to taste the flavor of it. The great thing about all of this is it cannot be industrialized. You know why you can't find this kind of bread at the grocery store? And if you're buying sourdough bread at the grocery store, look at the ingredient list, and if it says yeast, it is not a true sourdough. Okay, it has sourdough flavor. It's not a true sourdough. You can't industrialize this process and get the same end result. You can't do that. It has to be done in small batches at home in your kitchen. So the stuff that you're buying at the store has been heated because it's been canned, and you're just getting flavored cabbage that doesn't have the same kind of stuff. You can, every once in a while, you can find one that's in the like the cold, the
Yeah.
refrigerated aisle.
Carlson makes one.
Yeah, that's as good as you're gonna get unless
Yeah.
you're making it at home. But this is really, I mean, guys, come on, like
That was
shredded
easy.
cabbage, put some salt on it, 3 days.
Yeah.
You're good. Who can't do that, right?
So easy.